Tom. How are
Hey,
you?
yeah. I'm good. I'm jabbed. I'm well fed. I'm in the living the dream. I'm in the dream is what I was gonna say. That don't make sense. I'm living it.
And how many coffees have you had today, may I ask?
Okay. I've had a couple of coffees. I've had a few coffees. I had one before I left for my jab.
Mm-hmm.
Had one whilst waiting for my jab.
Mm-hmm.
Had one when I got home from jab.
Yeah.
She said when I sat down for my jab, she said, are you on any medicine? I was like, do I say caffeine? Would that affect the jab? Should I not have had caffeine? God, overthinking things.
You seem very jittery today. That's
I've
all
had a
I
lot
ask.
of sugar as well. I also had 2 cakes.
Well, that is probably why. You're literally running off of caffeine and sugar today.
It's my dream, to be honest. And it's 5 o'clock. Yeah, I had a cake when I was waiting and I had my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a cake when I got home because it's
Can I
Father's
ask what
Day.
cake? What cakes?
I had a millionaire shortbread.
Yeah,
And
good.
then I had a slice of Bakewell tart. So it's not really a cake. But
Do you know what? Very
it's under the
solid
same
options. I had the same 2 cakes yesterday.
No, what?
That's spooky, right?
What?
I'm not even kidding. Although
Where
mine was
from?
called like a Bakewell, an almond bake, but it's basically a Bakewell tart, but it's called an
But
almond
without
bake.
the icing.
But yeah, so it's like lower tier levels. But
You
yeah,
need that icing.
I did. I had exactly the same cakes. I was in Westfield Shopping Centre and me and Alex were like, oh, should we go grab cake? Alex is my boyfriend, for new listeners who do not know the reference of Alex.
And he eats cake?
Yes, yeah, he eats
Wow.
cake. I know, shocking, right? Yeah, shocking.
I say this because I've seen him and he doesn't look like the type of guy who would eat cakes.
You reckon?
He's very
what
lean.
type of person doesn't look like they eat cakes?
He's very lean.
Yeah, he just has a
He
really
looks like
high
he watches what
metabolism.
he eats.
He's the type of person.
Does it sound
that
like I'm
I
grafting on your
hate.
boyfriend? Because I kind of am.
Does it sound like I'm breaking up my boyfriend because like I'm not?
Kind of am.
But it's so annoying. If you're a person out there that's listening to this that can literally eat 6 cakes in a row and not put on any weight,
I'm jealous.
jealous, very jealous. I don't hate you.
Jealous?
I envy you deeply.
Oh no, I'd probably say hate.
Go
Hate's
as
the
far
only
as
word that
hatred.
fits. Yeah, I would.
Hatred towards you. I mean, you just don't. But then, do you know what? I always
What?
think it's going to catch up to you at some point. If that's you right now, in 10 years' time, your metabolism will slow down and you won't know how to eat properly. Not
Yeah,
properly,
and they won't
but,
know
like,
what it's like to be
eat.
fat and ugly like I did.
I've lived with
They
it.
haven't gone
I've-
through the hardships.
I've come to terms with it now.
They don't know what I've been through. They don't understand my struggle.
Is the struggles. But anyway, Tom, I want to tell you my I'm an adult butt. So every
I'm
single
excited.
week on the podcast, we do this thing called I'm an adult butt, where me and Tom share a story that has happened this week that wasn't very adultish of us, and we can all relate over it and giggle over it, hopefully. So, Tom, like I said, was shopping in Westfield Shopping Centre in London yesterday, and
Which
I went
one?
in Stratford, if anyone cares to know, and I went into
Bigger.
shop, and it's kind of like this trendy cool shop, sells men and women's clothes, and
We're not naming it.
I mean, we can name it. It's called Weekday. You heard of Weekday?
I have heard of Weekday.
We like Weekday. Weekday's a cool shop. And the
expensive.
changing rooms are gender neutral, so that means, if you don't know, I'm sure everyone knows what that means. But if you're a man or woman, you share the same changing room. Doesn't matter about your gender. So me and Alex go and we both want to try some things on. We're just like, oh, because we want to show each other what we've tried on. And usually, like,
Right.
if I'm trying on clothes and he has to wait outside, I will be that annoying
Step out.
person that steps out and goes, do you like this? What do you think? And vice versa. So we were just like, oh, let's just go into the same changing space. So we did.
Big yikes.
And we didn't notice, but on the wall, you shouldn't really share a changing room anyway, because I think people think that you're up to some naughty business when you're not.
I think I'd assume that.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're in this changing room, and we didn't notice that there was a sign also saying, because of COVID, can you please limit the changing room to one person changing room per changing room. We didn't notice. Anyway, so we're in there, and we're having this conversation, and I'm like, what about this one? And Alex is like, oh, just leave it alone, don't touch that. And I'm like, but why can't I touch that? And I was like, I just want to see what it's like. I just want to see the material. And he's like, stop touching that, just don't touch that, leave it
These are
alone.
bad words.
So it's having
These are
like
bad words.
really like innuendo-y words if you can't see what's going on behind the curtain. Anyway, we hear this like really like little voice, like, excuse me. And we're just like, who the bloody hell is this? And they're talking to us, and then we're whispering like, do you think she means us? And this woman can clearly, obviously hear us. So I like stick my head out of the curtain like, hello. And she was like, is there two of you in there? And I was like, I wanted to say no, but you can see under the curtain that there's two sets of feet. So I was like, yeah. She was like, I'm going to have to politely ask for one of you to step out of the changing room. And I was like, we're currently not in. I'm just gonna get changed, but it just.
Oh my gosh,
it was so embarrassing because
it doesn't help that you weren't dressed.
Yeah, and also it doesn't help that we were having this conversation like, don't touch that, because he didn't want me to mess up the order of clothes that he wanted to try on. Because you know when you try on stuff and you want to try on stuff efficiently, so like you're like, okay, so that top will go with these jeans, and I want to see what that looks like together. He didn't want me to mess up his order of trying things on, but it just sounded very suspicious to anybody who didn't understand the context of the conversation, and it was very embarrassing. So I'm an adult, but I had some weird innuendo-y dodgy conversations and got told off about it.
Well, that's not a million miles away from my story for today.
Go on then, what's your I'm an adult but, Tom?
I went and got jabbed today, which you may have not heard from my earlier rant. I went and got my jab, and it was very good. I'm pro vaccine, but if you're unsure, do talk to a GP and talk to all the people that you need to talk to. I've spoken to people. I work, and people at my work have said do this, that, and the other. So I'm fully understanding of what the vaccine does. So I'm pro vaccine. I know people are out there who are a bit suspicious by it. Go talk to people that you need to talk to about it. But I went for my vaccine today, and I go into that little room. So you go into like these separate cubicles with a curtain, essentially like a changing room, like you. And them sits me down. It's very quiet, and I hate quiet time. I'm okay with needles, just hate quiet. Quiet is the worst thing in my life. Absolutely hate it. And I sit down. She goes, "Can I take your name?" She take my name. "Can I have your date of birth?" She takes my date of birth, my street name, the name of my street, not my street name. T Dizzle isn't what she wanted to hear. My name of my street, and so she's now writing this in, and it's very quiet. And I just go, "So have you had a busy day?" Essentially, like what you do in a cab. So if you had a busy day, she goes, "Yeah, it's not been too bad." Blah 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 blah. And then we start talking. And she asked me what I do. She asked if I was still at uni. I was like, no, I just got a baby's face, this, that, and the other. And we're just chatting. And then it must have been 5 minutes of chatting. And then we get a little, is everything okay in there? Because we're not meant to be in here for that long. It's meant to be in, jab, out. So enough people can get what. And we go, yeah, everything's fine in here. Well, she says it because it'd be weird if I said it. She goes, yeah, everything's fine in here. And I was like, am I getting told off for talking? It's like being back at school. And I was like, Tom, you've been chatting for 2 minutes. I said, I'm sorry. I apologise for talking. I said, I'm sorry. You should probably just do your job. And it kind of changed the mood. And then I got my jab and I had to leave. And it was almost awkward when I left because I didn't know who knocked on the door. And you can also see there's a massive queue of people who want their jab. It was almost like the walk of shame.
You're being that really annoying to my person.
Seat. Yeah. I was embarrassed because people must have been like, oh, he must be really bad on needles. He was in there for an awful long time. Maybe he fainted. Maybe there's something. I was like, just like to talk, to be honest.
Making friendly conversation, checking in
I'm
with
an adult.
people.
I'm an adult, but I absolutely detest silence. Yeah, but if there's a silence, I will talk through it.
Do you know what you hate more, though?
Oh, I do hate that. I do hate that more. I think if I was in silence and someone's going, I'd be like, this is hell. This is hell. And my mouth's like sewn shut so I can't talk. I'm like, this is awful. This is. Yeah, that would be my hell.
But it wasn't. Your jab went fine. And how do you feel?
The jab was fine. I feel fine. I've got great signal on my phone. I'm now magnetic.
Got bionic arms now.
I bought so much Microsoft stock. I'm living the dream. No, I'm absolutely fine. My arm's a little bit tired, a little bit heavy, but no different from any other jab I've had.
Yeah, fair. It's good to know.
Fair.
Good to know.
But yeah, I would recommend getting your jab, and I hope you've got yours booked in soon, Anya.
I do. 8th of July, me.
So soon.
So
soon.
So soon, but yet so far.
I know, what's that, 3 weeks?
Yeah, yeah,
Aw.
I know. Busy time round where I live.
And then 4 weeks after, 5 weeks after that, I'll be getting my second jab.
Wow, look at you. You're going to be vaccinated before me.
And I'll be able to go on holiday before you.
Yeah, you will. Well, yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah,
We will
maybe.
see. Anyway, Tom,
Anyway, Anya.
today we are talking about being selfish and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And should people be selfish?
Yes.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Thanks for listening, Tune Squatters. It's been no. I think being selfish is necessary at some points.
Necessary.
Do you know what? I'm going to do a you. I'm going to do you. Yeah, I'm on the fence. You could go either way.
Well,
It sucks, doesn't it, when you ask for an answer and it goes, I'm on the fence.
I think it just genuinely depends on your perception of
Genuinely.
what selfish means. So selfish is a person that is putting their own needs first, and they're primarily concerned with themselves and seek only those activities that fulfill their own desires and wants. So
Oh, that was off the top of your head. That was great.
I know, right? So if you're being selfish, you're literally only doing something because it is going to fulfill something that benefits you and doesn't benefit anybody else. And when I hear that, I'm like, that's not that bad. Like, it really is not that bad. Like, if somebody said to me, right, Anya, I'm gonna go tonight and I'm not going to do any more work tonight. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna have a bubble bath, I'm gonna put a face mask on, I'm gonna make my favourite dinner, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna watch Netflix. That is only benefiting that person. It is not benefiting me or anybody else.
It might be benefiting
Only
you in the
her.
long term.
Exactly, because she might be a nicer person to hang out with because she's chill and, you know, isn't negative, Nelly, because
Zen.
she looks after herself. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
No,
in
me
that
neither.
respect. So I genuinely do think it depends on your perspective of what selfish is. And if you're the type of person that's like, that doesn't want that type of person to do something like that, then doesn't that switch on you and make you the selfish person?
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. The old switcheroonie. I think there are times you have to be selfish and times you shouldn't be selfish. Like with everything. I think it's all perspective based.
Yeah.
Whether you should be selfish or not. Like, you've got to put yourself mentally first. But if it's going to affect the greater good, then you can't put yourself first. That's how I've always put it.
Yeah.
Like, if you had 12 donuts and I said, oh, and can I have one? You go, no, they're mine. That's not helping the greater good.
Yes.
Whereas if
Well-
I have one donut and you say, can I have your donut? I go, no, because it's helping the greater good.
So back way in the heyday when we were
Oh,
all
my favourite days.
cave people, people that were selfish because it was a survival technique, and you had to be
Yes.
selfish about your resources and, you know, keep them to yourselves because that was your only way to be able to survive. So it's interesting now that people, or some people, and we can all be selfish at some points, are still selfish. Like, why do we still want to keep our resources to ourselves? And there are some people that are more well off than others that don't necessarily need those resources, and people that aren't as well off as others and do need those resources. But in a world where we can survive quite easily, I don't understand why there are still so many selfish people out there.
Can I ask you a question
Yes, you may.
about being selfish? So let's say you and I both studied the same thing at university.
Yes.
So
we
you and I
did.
are both going to go for the same jobs.
Yeah.
If you see a job, would you say, oh, Tom, there's this job? Or would you be selfish and say, I want this job. I don't want less competition. I'm not going to share it with Tom.
Because we were told that at university, weren't we? I remember.
Everyone. If you see a job advert, put it in the group chat. And I was like, absolutely not. That's stupid.
Yeah, that's what our tutors told us, like, when we were finishing up uni. They were like, if you see a job advert, share it with your peers. And it's like,
Because
well...
I see where it makes sense, because let's say you got a job. You might be
Yeah.
able to say, oh, I've got a friend called Tom. He would like a job. You might be able to get me in.
But if there's only one job going...
Yeah, but let's
Then-
say, but after a month of you being there, they might be like, oh, we actually need some extra help.
Well,
You'd
then,
be like,
yeah.
oh, my friend's home.
Yeah.
But you have to get your foot in the door first.
Yeah.
And you don't know if someone else would be the same. Like, I'm sure there are people on
Yeah.
the course that you disliked.
well, I wouldn't
I'm
say
not naming any. I'm
I
not going to name names.
prefer.
I'm sure there are.
over
I'm
some
sure
other
there are people. I'm sure there are people on the course that you wouldn't want to see every day
Yeah, that's
and work
true. Yeah,
closely
yeah,
with.
yeah.
And you wouldn't want them getting the job, so you wouldn't put them forwards.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that selfish? Because they're now still looking for a job, and you could have helped, but you didn't want them working with you 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
I think I think if you had to give it a name, then yeah, I think it would. Selfish would be the name that you call it.
It's the
But
only name I'd call it.
again, if you look down the road, the reason why I wouldn't do that is because it would make my day-to-day life way more taxing, because you have to put up with somebody that you dislike and don't get on with.
Yeah.
And then that
But you might not
affects-
like the person they actually hire, but you know this person already.
well, but then that's the odds that you take.
I'm going to
isn't
throw
it?
more variables at you that you have no control over. And it's raining, Anya. What do you do now? World War III is about to start, and this person really needs a job. They've just had a kid. No.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, doesn't it? But ultimately, if that person gets hired and I dislike them, it makes my day more taxing, which makes me not enjoy work, which makes me want to quit down the line. So, yeah, it definitely depends on the situation.
I get that, but
would you
would I?
give that
From
person-
which step? I asked about 4 questions here,
The first
and they
step-
kept changing and developing.
If
I saw a
you-
job
yes,
that I thought you would also want,
would you tell me about it?
it depends on the job.
Interesting. What, like, so it
Yeah.
depends on my skills versus your skills? Because
Yes, probably.
we do the same thing, but I think we're better at different
But
things.
we've
in
taken
that thing.
different things. Yeah.
Yes.
But I would possibly not tell you.
Yeah, I think
I
I'd
would probably be
same.
selfish.
Yeah.
Less
because
competition.
You have
Like, obviously
and I
there is
respect
competition
that.
because there are other unis doing the same course, there are other people who also want the same job as us. But just knowing I have that one less to compete with
Yeah.
somewhat makes me internally think, oh, I might have the best chance of this.
But like, I respect that you're able to acknowledge that and admit it, because I think a lot of people wouldn't, and I don't think it's wrong to look after yourself and to put yourself first, because it's not your job to look after somebody else. It's your job to get
100%.
yourself places. And I think sometimes you do have to be selfish in order to make headway in your life. Like, you do.
So someone at my work
Yeah.
has the same job as me, and there was a job at another company going.
Mhm.
He sent it to me and said, you should go for this. How should I feel by that?
As
So he's
in-
trying to get rid of me.
But have you spoken
Or
to him
that he-
about wanting to maybe
No.
mix things up?
No.
Interesting. Yeah, weird. That's weird.
I don't know if he was like, I want him gone, or he's just like, hey, heads up, this job I'm also going for. I didn't know if he was going for it as well. I don't know how I would feel if I got the job over him and he showed me it. Because that must suck.
Yeah.
In a selfish way, I bet that sucks. If I was like, hey, Anya, I'm going for this job, but you should also go for it because it's a great job, I would then resent you if you got it.
It's weird because he's kind of doing it the other way around. Like, he's almost outing himself as being selfish without even needing to, because
Wait,
he's saying,
why?
like, I want to be the person in this job, just me. So, like, here's another job that you can do, and off you
Well,
go.
we don't
without
know. We
you
don't
even
know.
asking.
We
Yeah, but that
don't know
could
his
be a
approach, but that
scenario.
could be up there.
Exactly.
Or I could get the job and he'll be like, well, I got Tom that job.
Interesting.
And then when it comes to, he might be like, Tom, get me in.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's difficult, but ultimately I think that if you're a person out there that chronically puts other people's needs in front of your own, you need to be more selfish. And I don't think being selfish is a bad thing. Like, I think that we've turned it into this horrible thing, but it's really not. Like, it's the way that we survive. It's the way that we live happy, fulfilled lives, being selfish. And there are times where you need to be selfless and think of other people, like you say, for the greater good. But ultimately, like, say if...
I like to call myself the greater good.
the greater good.
I am the greater good, Andy. Just do it for me.
Say if that person genuinely they thought that you wanted to like change up your work. They saw this job, they thought it'd be amazing for you, they sent it over to you. You don't know, but deep down, like you say, they could be doing that to benefit themselves in the future, because you might look out for them more in the future. So I feel like there can always be underlying reasons as to why people do certain things, and people aren't always looking out for themselves, which isn't a bad thing, but I think people need to be aware of that everyone has their own prerogatives, everyone's got their own means,
their own agenda.
Yes.
But do you think there's a difference between being selfish and self-care?
Good question.
Thanks. I thought of it myself, and then I proposed it to you.
I think
that was my method there.
I think there is. I think selfish definitely has more negative connotations around it. I think self-care is a very modern phrase that's come about within the last 5 to 10 years, self-care. And I like it as well, because when you think about selfish and selfless, they're very black and white. Like, there's no like in between. And
Silenced and silence. Two very similar things with separate meanings.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Kind of. Tom, that's a bit of a stretch. You're not quite Oprah, Tom. Not quite yet.
Not quite yet, but we're working on it. I think that self-care sits in the middle of those two things, selfish and selfless, very well.
Okay.
Because you're being selfish for yourself, but then you're also being selfless. Because if you look down the road, you have to be selfish in order to be selfless, because you need to be able to look after yourself, to be able to be whole, to be able to give other people what they need. And if you're not whole, then you can't give other people 100% of what they need. Am I
You know when
now?
someone just says a lot of words to you, and they keep going back to some words that you recognise, and then you can't really quite follow the... I got lost a long time ago down this road, and you kept saying the word road, and I got way off. But
I'm
I'll
off
agree.
the road. I'm on the mountain path.
I'll agree. It sounds right. But yeah, have you ever had just someone talk at you for a bit, and you go, "I missed like quite an important like sentence here now. Who knows where it's going to finish? Just agree, Tom. Just agree. Yeah, come on."
Do you want me to ask you the question? Do you
Please
think
don't.
there's a
Please
difference
don't.
between self-care and selfish?
Yes.
Why?
Damn, I wasn't expecting the follow-up question. I'm really worried I'm going to give you the exact same answer that I just couldn't follow on yours. Selfish, I think, is for own personal gain. That could be in any form. Where I think self-care is only for mental state. There was so many there's 3 words here with self involved, and I can't separate any of them. That's the issue. I don't know what I'm arguing for anymore. Do you ever ask a question? This is another question that's not really relevant to anything. Do you ever ask a question and hope they don't flip it back on you?
Well, always. That's like when you sit
Yeah,
in a
well, I was
classroom,
hoping
you're
that would
like,
happen there, and you didn't.
Well, I can move on. We can move on to something else. Still.
We move.
It's okay.
Okay.
We move.
I will ask another question which won't matter to anyone, and I'm going to hope you don't say it back to me. I haven't got one at the moment, but I will.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Working it up.
I'm sure. They'll come.
So, Tom.
Yeah.
I said to you earlier that I didn't understand why people in this modern day and age are still selfish. Because if selfishness came from back in the heyday when we were all cave people and we were
being gatherers and hunters.
Yeah, and we were trying to survive, so we didn't share our resources. Why is it now that people still won't share their resources? Like, for example, if I did have 12 donuts, why wouldn't I give you one?
Well, I want to just ruin this. I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would.
Well, yeah. If I'm feeling nice, then yeah, I would.
I'm sure you would, regardless, Anya, because you're a very giving person.
Thanks, Tom. I feel like there's an underlying reason as to why you say this. Is this for your own
Because I felt bad
gain?
for not listening to your actual answer. I felt bad.
You're forgiven. Okay, so apparently people that don't share their own resources and therefore are thought of as selfish do this because they don't think that they have enough, which doesn't quite make sense to me. Maybe it's just like your mindset and how you perceive your resources, but it essentially means that they're motivated to hold on to them, and also if they feel like they're losing control, like somebody who has like too many goals and like too many needs, they overvalue their resources because they think that the resources are going to help them reach their goals. And if they lose these resources, they lose their goals. And if they lose their goals, they feel like they've lost control of their lives. And I've got an example because I know that you might be like losing track.
It's the fact that you pointed to me made it so much more serious.
You listen,
Tom,
straighten up in that chair. So, for example, and this example makes a lot of sense to me. A student who doesn't share his study notes with others is usually the ones who have the high academic goals, and to him or her, sharing notes could mean losing an important resource, and that resource would be able to help them reach their goal, and not being able to reach your goal is a recipe for feeling loss of control over your lives. So that kind of does make sense to me, that like you wouldn't want to share your notes with somebody because you feel like if you do that, then you're not going to reach your goal.
I disagree with that.
Why? Because you'd share them and then you're helping
and then fail on my own.
Same time.
I have no issue with sharing my stuff, my resources, because especially for exams.
Yeah.
Exams, I like to be the best, but it's also not like at the end only one person can get X, whereas with a job, only one person can get X.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to help you for an exam, because if we both get A's at first, whatever the highest is, we both get the highest. Whereas if it's a job and there's only one position and one person get an A, one person get a first, one person get an A star, whatever method it is.
Yeah.
That's where the competition gets in, and that's where I think the selfishness steps in.
But
I understand where you're coming from with the you want to be the best, and if you share your resources, you won't necessarily be the best. But I think this is where I'm going to sound like I'm sucking up for points. I don't think you need to be the best at all the time, especially if there can be more than one best.
Yeah, you need to help people up along the way.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree with that. I think that it's a good thing to help people up along the way, but then is it a good thing to help people up along the way because you know that they're going to help you in their journey when they reach the top? And then it's kind of like...
Oh, possibly. That could be a nice addition.
Is that selfish then? Does that automatically
to
turn
have
into
that
a selfish motivation? Like,
to have that thought in the back of your mind.
Exactly. You think you're being really selfless by helping them up with you, but actually in the back of your head, you're like, if they're up there with me, then, you know, we can be like a little tag team.
The only thing that I would have is if they're up there with me, when it moves from education to jobs, I've now helped this person to potentially outreach me.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
the issue.
And I think you have to admit, like you did earlier, that these thoughts are always in our head because we are innately wanting to survive. And although we can survive with, a lot of us are able to in this world survive because we have really easy access to food, running water, a lot of us have roofs over our heads. So the actual like main principles of survival are there. What is that like pyramid or like triangle? It's called like the triangle.
The Illuminati.
No, it's like this triangle of like survival. So like on the bottom is like your main resources, then the next step in the
like
triangle,
a food chain type thing.
Sort of, yeah. The next step is like having like your family love you, like people that care for you, and then the next stop is like job, and then there's a top one that I can't remember. But anyway, we're way up in the pyramid now of like survival, like our way of life. Like we are so inundated with resources, our lives are so fruitful that actually being selfish now and surviving now isn't necessarily about like, oh, you have got you've hunted that deer and like if I don't have that then I'm going to starve. It's actually moved on to like jobs, and you know, if I help you up here then I'm not going to get that job. So like that way of survival has adapted and it's modernized. But I do think it's interesting. And coming back to my example of the kids, very interested in this, kids studying and like getting the best grade, and like, is it selfish not to share notes with them? My best friend actually, she pretty much tutored me throughout my geography A-level exam.
See, a lot of people say teaching is the best way of making it stick in. That sounds inappropriate. But like, if you learn something and then you teach it, it like confirms it in your head to when you remember it, because you've got to know it well enough to teach someone else. So you're learning it essentially twice.
Maybe she was doing
And
it
that's
for
apparently
selfish
the best way to
reasons.
do it.
Maybe she was doing it because she was
How
like,
selfish of your best friend.
I can do study
Well,
reading sessions, so I'll.
I don't think it's
get
selfish
free
to
revision.
teach.
No, it's not selfish,
I
and
don't
it
think
wasn't.
that's a
It wasn't. It
selfish
was
mood.
very. It was very, very selfless. But ultimately,
It's paired gain.
yeah. Ultimately, I came out of the A level with an A, and she came out with a B.
Subtle flex.
And she went on to do geography at university, and I haven't touched geography since. And I remember
and you called her a dum-dum.
Well, I remember getting the A level results, and she, obviously she's my bestie, so like it's fine. But I do remember her resenting me, and like even
I
to
would
this
be a
day,
little bit
she's just,
resentful.
oh, that's so annoying. Because
To this day, she's still holding it against you.
yeah, we're not holding. It's not my fault that I got more than her, but it is her own fault that maybe if she hadn't have sat there teaching me A level geography, she would have gotten a
and study
better
itself.
grade because she would just be
Because
focusing
she
on
had to
herself.
dumb it down so you could learn.
So I do think that like you can try and be like, oh, I am a very like humble, selfless person, but we do have this ingrained into us that we want to be the best and we look out for ourselves, and I think that people need to admit it more, and it's not a bad thing to be the best person that you can be, and if being selfish means you have to do that, then I think you should do it. Tom, I've got a question for you. Oh, you know how you
Okay.
Yeah? Question?
I was going to say, you know how
Yeah.
I said I'm sure there'll be a question down the line that I'll have for you that's not relevant to anything?
Yeah.
I do.
Go on then.
If you own a $1 billion company, let's say, AudioBox is huge, big monies, and Google offers it for $3 billion, and you take it, and then you find out AudioBox is now worth $15 billion. Do you get upset over the $12 billion you didn't make, or do you go $3 billion is a lot of money and that's enough?
No, you get upset that you didn't make the other 12 billion.
But what would the 12 billion change to your life that the 3 billion hasn't already done?
I could have given it to charities. It would have helped. It would have helped in.
You can still give
places.
3 billion to charity.
Yeah, but what if I got that 3 billion? Be selfish.
There we
Spend it
go.
on me,
What could you do
self-care.
with 3 billion?
A lot more than I know what to do with that.
You wouldn't be able. I think if you got 3 billion, you wouldn't be able to spend $1 billion in your lifetime. Lifetime.
Possibly not, but it could, go on to generation. But then also, I want my family to make their own way. I don't want them living off my.
Is that what Bill and Belinda Gates, the Gateses? Well, the Gates and X-Gate. They're not giving their money to the kids, are they?
I have no idea.
They've given them great education and whatnot and links to the society, but when they die, they're giving their money to the foundation rather than the kids.
Oh, that's a little bit harsh. That is a little bit harsh. But I think
Well, if you pay for someone's education, they can then do what they want.
True, that's true. They've really had a leg up. Yeah, fair enough.
And I think their name will carry a lot of clout.
Yeah, that's true.
For business partners.
Very true. Tom, I have a question for you.
Oh, for me now. Okay, the tables have turned.
Have you got a moment where you were selfish that stands out, or somebody else was selfish towards you? And
Wish I got a heads up before asking this.
But then it's natural, isn't it? And then we know you're not making up.
Well, I don't know if I have one now is the issue. I'm sure I have been selfish in my lifetime and I'm not realised. Is there a time that I've been selfish on purpose?
Yeah.
Have I been selfish on purpose? Probably, I imagine so. But I can't tell you a single time that I have been.
Shall I tell you mine?
Tough. Yeah, go for it. But I don't think I'll have one by the end of the story.
Okay.
Tell me yours.
Okay. So my one that stands out for me, and it really rocks me at the time, was I asked. So it wasn't me being selfish. It was a friend that was being selfish. But like in a good way, I can understand now. So there was a time in my life where Alex had quite bad mental health, and it was when he was at uni. And I wasn't at uni with him because I was working in London. And I know that he had a really rough week. And when you're in a bad mental health state, sometimes you just don't really want to talk to anyone. And he wasn't answering my phones and text messages, and you get a bit worried when that person that you love doesn't really answer their phone. I was just like, oh, this sucks. And I knew the people that he was living with, and I asked one of them if they could like go up, just check on him, like go and knock on their door and check on them and see if they're okay, and like just report back to me because I was feeling a bit worried about it. And she said no. She said she wasn't going to do that. And her reason for it was because she suffered with depression in the past, and she doesn't want to be around somebody who is in a state of depression because she doesn't want it to affect hers and be a catalyst for her own depression to flare up again. So she wasn't going to do that for me.
I kind of see where that's coming from, but I don't know if depression works that way.
I mean, but she knows herself.
I've never been through
Well, yeah,
depression,
no,
so I can't really relate. But
and I think
I didn't know it was contagious.
Well, I think that maybe you know
Might
yourselves,
trigger it.
and maybe that does trigger it for some people.
Well, I have been selfish in many ways. Like, similar to you, my girlfriend was going through difficult times at university, and I just had to say, I'm sorry, I've got to crack down on this essay. I can't keep replying to you because I've got to get this work done, or I'm going to fail my uni degree. And I think that was one of those ones where it's for the greater good. But I imagine for her at the time, it must have been super sucky when she's like, I'm needing help and I need you to help me. And I'm like, I can't help and help myself. So it was like a selfish decision.
Yeah.
So that was bad. And then there's like everyday selfishness where I've had like change in my pocket and I've walked past someone who's homeless and they've asked for change and I've just ignored them.
Yeah.
Like, that's selfish because I have money that I could give. Like, I could give £1 in my pocket to this man who has nothing. But I'm walking past and I just feel like, no,
and
this is my £1 in my pocket.
Yeah, you've
and
got
that's
your
like a
resources and you don't feel like you've got enough resources to share. But that's why if I'm totally honest, when I walk past people that are homeless, there's probably like 1 in 10 times that I will give them money or something. 1 in 10, which isn't a lot, but the other 9 times that I walk past them, that's true. The other 9 times that I walk past them, honestly, my thought process is, I feel really, really bad for you. Like, I empathise with your situation, although I can't empathise enough to actually really understand what it's like. But ultimately, I'm a young professional who's looking after myself right now, and I've
got to look after number one first.
Yeah, and I've only got enough means for myself, and that's
But then
sucky,
when you say that, I don't know if that's true.
I mean,
like, are you living paycheck to paycheck?
No, I'm not. I'm getting a coffee every other day.
I'm not trying to make you look bad because I do the exact same
true.
thing.
Everyone,
but
I would
I'm not
say
living paycheck to paycheck, and I still don't stop and give the homeless man £1, £2, £5, a bottle of water, whatever.
I will stop into Costa and get a coffee, and
possibly a cake, and then
exactly that's the lifestyle that you want to live,
which is awful.
Yeah,
that's a selfish for self gain rather than the greater good. Granted, we have no concept of what they're going to spend their money on. There's the whole phrase of don't give it to the homeless people directly, as spend it on drugs, whatever, or get mugged. I think they get mugged on the streets a lot. Give it to the charity and the charity will dispense it in the best way possible. However, once again, do you trust the charity to do it, or do you go directly to the homeless person? Just cut out a middleman because they have to pay for staff, they have to pay for websites, they have to pay for this, that and the other. Everything's got a bill attached to it. How much of your £1 is going to go to the homeless when you actually do it? Whereas when you give an actual pound coin to a homeless man, you know they're going to get exactly £1 of it.
Yeah. No, I know. It's a moral dilemma that I think a lot of us have in our heads. Yeah.
And if they've got a dog, that often sways me a lot better. It's just the way it is.
It's just true.
It's true. If they have a dog, I'm going to go, they've got to feed 2 rather than 1. Yes. So
some top tips that I found.
Oh, Anya's top tips
for being selfish.
Anya's hot tips.
That's
what a throwback that is. Wow.
I think. Okay, so there's 3 that I really like that aren't really just basic top tips or hot tips. So number 1 is
I don't want your hot tip.
Assessing your needs and desires right now. So that could be anything from I want to eat chocolate to I want a vacation in the Bahamas. And like thinking really about what would make you happier, calmer, and more content, and do it without judgment. Like, don't judge yourself. Think right now, what will make me happier? And again, this is what we've been talking about throughout the whole episode, is although it feels like a selfish decision right now, if it's going to make you happier, healthier, calmer, just more positive for the future, it's for the greater good, you know? And that's not being selfish, that's just doing something that is going to make you a happier being, and that will, like, you don't like this phrase, that will rub off on other people. It will.
There's a reason why I don't like that phrase.
And then people won't have any bad days. You see, these are all episodes that we
That's
spoken
like with a
about.
bad phrase. A phrase that I genuinely hate and gets said to me an awful lot. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Do you know what? I hate that phrase. Don't say to me, it is what it is.
It isn't though, is it? It isn't. I mean,
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be if you don't want it to be.
It could be whatever we want it to be. Don't
true.
say to me, it is what it is. Unless you're pointing at a cat and I go, it's a cat. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Fact.
It's definite. That's definite. But
You need a
there's
definitive. But
yeah.
I hate it when people go, it is what it is. I've had a really bad day. It is what it is.
It's not, because
I go,
if you have
no.
a piece of chocolate and if you make yourself happier by being more selfish, then it isn't what it is it? No. It's
Exactly.
not, exactly.
Be better. Rub
Be
off on
better.
people.
Okay.
Come on, Anya. Don't
My
laugh at that.
my
That's your
top
phrase.
tip is, don't look for validation. So the very definition of selfishness means you don't worry about how your behaviour affects others. And, you know, you're the guide here, Tom. You are the guide. You're the captain. No one else can tell you what to do. So don't seek for other people. Don't seek validation from other people. So if I'm going to have a piece of chocolate, if I'm going to book a holiday to the Bahamas, a lot of what I think is, if I have that piece of chocolate and my mum walks in right now, she's going to be like, oh, did you need that piece of chocolate? Or when
like,
I
"Mum,
book
yes."
that holiday, you know, some people are going to be like, oh, should you really be going on holiday? You know, when you haven't
Can you
had your
afford
2 vaccinations, can you afford it? You
Well,
know?
they wouldn't let you, man. That's
They wouldn't let me-
absurd.
yeah, it's true, it's true.
At least I'm
Maybe
half
this time last-
vaccinated.
this
Let's
time
go,
last
team.
year- This time last year would have been a problem. Anyway, don't seek other people's validations. Do it for yourself. That's
I'll
something
say it again.
that you
I've
can. Yeah, you would
said it before and I'll
yeah.
say it again.
You could say it then. Say it then.
No, actually, Anya, now that you've forced me to, I won't.
Okay, fine.
How does that feel? It is what it
Pretty
is.
small. It is what it is, Tom.
Always be your own cheerleader.
It's true.
Always be your own cheerleader.
Very true advice, Tom. And my last top tip is
Last hot tip.
don't embrace.
Gather around, kids. It's Anya's last hot tip.
Don't embrace the guilt.
Easier said than done.
To make an omelette, Tom, you have to break a few
Don't say
eggs.
that. Don't say it. You don't break eggs, you crack them.
Okay, you have to crack a few eggs. When you surround yourself with people who are used to getting whatever they want from you, they might not like the selfish you. You know, there's nothing in it from them. But don't let them tap into your guilt. You felt guilty enough in the past. Stop it. Stop. Okay? Don't feel guilty.
Just stop it.
Just stop it. It is not what it is. Okay.
How do you feel about yes men?
I admire them, but then I also kind of think, like, are you just sucking up to people? You know, I admire.
I
people
think
that
I'd hate to have yes men.
I admire people that are like spontaneous, and that's the side of a yes man that I like. But a yes man that's more like a doormat and just says yes to tasks that they're asked to do. That's the type of person where I'm like,
I don't need people really to inflate my ego. I need people to reality check me.
Yeah, Tom.
Which I think you do very well, Anya.
You're a piece of beep, beep, beep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But Anya, every week
Every week,
on
Tom.
our Instagram.
Yes, Tom.
Yes, Anya. Yes!
Yes!
Let's go! Yes, on our Instagram we put up a poll about a question that's related loosely to this episode.
Yes, Tom.
And that's on our Instagram, at We Are AudioBox, and we do it every week, normally the day we're about to record. So if you want to be part of that, absolutely get on our Instagram. Yes!
Yes,
Anya,
Tom.
what did you ask the Tune Squad this week?
Yes, Tom.
I got really
I asked-
aggressive. I got really
Is
aggressive.
this an American podcast?
Yeah, it is! Let's go!
I asked, would you rather do something for yourself even if it's seen as selfish? And the two answers you could have picked were yes, live for you, or nope, that's not me. Tom?
I said nope, that's not me.
But I think it is a little bit.
I think it is too.
I think I've swayed you, haven't I?
Oh no. I don't know. It does. I don't think you can just give a definitive answer for this. It depends on what the thing is.
Yeah, but it is interesting to see how people understand the question and which side they take just from like a black or white answer.
Yeah, I obviously said that no. Look for the greater good rather than a selfish reason. And a little part of me thinks that's just so I can validate myself, make myself feel like a bit of a good person, because I don't really know which approach I would take. It depends on the situation, but on the offset, I did say no, do the greater good.
Interesting.
Because I always believe in helping out the greater good, but if the greater good is outweighed by negatives, like, do I kill myself to save a small family?
Jesus Christmas. This is
do you know
what we should have looked at in this episode, but maybe we'll do it.
What should we have looked at in this episode?
You know that analogy where it's like, if there's a train coming and there's like 10 people lying on the tracks over there and one person lying on the tracks over there,
do you kill one person to save 10?
Yeah.
I do.
Really?
100%. It's like the thing from The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Would you bomb your boat full of people but it kills a load of people over there?
Yeah.
Or do you bomb their boat and keep yourself safe? So it's a whole moral thing.
I think it depends. It depends on the greatest good. If you think that by you living, you're going to do a lot of good in your life.
I think the Dark Knight one was there's a boat, the boat of prisoners.
Yeah.
I think that was it. There's a boat of prisoners.
Oh yeah.
And there's a boat of just general civilians. And it was, do you kill a boat full of prisoners to save people who aren't prisoners, or do you save the prisoners and let the civilians die?
But are there more prisoners?
And then you're also against time. Because do you think the prisoners are going to just go, actually, no, kill those guys?
But are there more prisoners?
I think the same amount of people.
Oh, well then surely you'd save the civilians. I mean, you would.
Do you think your life's worth more than someone else?
Well, no.
Well, that's the situation. Do you think prisoners can be reformed?
Yes, there's evidence that prisoners can be reformed, and I think that a lot of people are wrongly accused of their crimes, so...
So you might be killing innocent people on that boat.
But then you're killing...
And police
definitely,
people.
You're definitely killing innocent people if you kill the civilians.
Well, you don't know. They might be bad guys as well, just haven't been caught yet.
I don't know. I think it would depend on the amount of people and the age of the people, I think, as well. In my head, those would be my two justifications.
Okay.
Anyway, Tom.
Good justifications.
Hopefully I'll never be in that situation. I
got bad news for you, Anya. What did you choose on the poll today?
I chose yes, live for you.
Yeah, I thought you would.
I still live by that.
You still back that?
Yeah, I still back that. I think I back it to a certain extent. Like, I hope that I will always be able to say that, but I think there are situations where it's like, this would be good for me, but it would be greater if I didn't do this just for me. You know?
Do you think that's going to change when you become a mama bear?
Oh, 100%, yeah. You always
do. You think you're the...
Yeah. I think you put your kids first for everything. And it's the same as my mum. Like, my mum will do... Like, she'll always put my work above her work. Like, even if she's like the CEO of this big travel company, and she'll like be reading this project that I need in, and you know, she wants me to do well, and I hope I can do that as well for my child, because it's for the greater good, because you're like, oh, you know, you want your child to succeed.
Do I?
I don't know, Tom. Do you want kids?
No.
Maybe that could be a conversation that we have in the future, by the way.
Maybe it can be.
Okay, Tom.
Next week's episode is on the cards.
Potentially. So, you guys said, well, 63% of you guys said, what do you think
I think the Tune Squads are going to be more selfish.
So you think they're going to say, nope, that's not me? 62%?
I think they're going to say yes.
Oh, you think they're going to say
yes? back themselves.
Yeah, that is correct. 63% of you guys said yes, live for you, and 37% of you guys said nope, that's not me.
I'm proud of the
Interesting.
33% that lied. I think in the end of the day, we're all gonna say what we're gonna say, but when it comes to it, we're probably gonna look after ourselves.
Yeah, it's like when
It's the whole fight or flight situation.
Yeah, fight or flight. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
No.
Yeah, well,
You are not. You're such a liar, Pants.
I was gonna say it in more of a scenario situation, like, you know, when people are like, oh yeah, if a burglar breaks into my house, like, I'm gonna run upstairs and hit them with a bat, and like when it actually happens, or if it ever happens in your life,
I hide under the bed and I hope they don't come into my room.
Absolutely terrified. Yes, exactly that. Exactly that. Or when I go and get my vaccination, you know, I'm going to sit there and be a big girl when actually I'm going to sit there and wet my pants, you know what I mean?
And hope it doesn't hurt. I go, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, is it in?
Is it in yet?
That's something Anya said before. Thank you very much, Tune Squatters, for joining us on another great episode. Wow, it's a time before you adult.
Christmas.
It's fun to be a child sometimes. Remember that. And remember that, Tune Squatters. It's okay to be a child every now and then. If you've had an I'm an adult but moment in your recent time, tweet us them, DM us them on Instagram or on Twitter. Both handles are the same. We are AudioBox. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode. Anya, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for joining me.
Oh, Anya, it is always somewhat a pleasure.
Somewhat a pleasure. Likewise. Okay, Tom. Bye!